Okay, so we're getting some water, and I noticed the hemlocks here look awful thin. And we started seeing hemlocks a few miles ago. You can see there's one there. And they should be thick, really super thick. All right, so the reason they're thin, zoom in on here. If you look at these little white structures, that's woolly adelgid. And woolly adelgid is kind of another invasive species. Technically it's a type of aphid. You see them a little more clearly on the underside of the leaves. This is a eastern hemlock because it's got the two lines. See the two white lines? Canadian hemlock has a little different line arrangement on the underside of the leaf. But those little white masses that look like mealybugs or little cotton balls are the woolly adelgid. And what they do is right now they're kind of in a case, but usually the crawlers of that insect will stipple and suck the chlorophyll, the green, out of the leaf and weaken the plant. And then secondary disease or drought or something like that will decimate it. This is going on all up and down the East Coast from Maine to, here to Georgia. And it's really devastating on the hemlock. And, the hemlock, they like deep shade, so they're very specific with, what they like as far as condition. They like moist, ericaceous soil, so slightly acidic because they're an evergreen. And, yeah, these guys are really taking a toll. Another case of alien invasives, and you should not be able to see through that hemlock. It should be just fully leafed out. The needles are leaves. But that's what's going on here. And when I used to work in a Shawangunk mountain range in New York, the hemlocks were dying out, and because it was a travel corridor near a road, the tree of heaven, the Ailanthus altissimo, which I talked about before. If you've ever seen the book A Tree Grows in New York City, that's the tree of heaven because it's opportunistic. We talked about opportunistic species. Here's another really sad looking hemlock right in front of us. You should never be able to see through that. But so that's another alien invasive. Originally it came from British Columbia, and there it kind of did its own thing, and it went after fir trees and hemlock trees and other evergreen species. But the thing that checked it was minus 30 degrees in the winter. Once it started warming up, there were mean temperatures, didn't get down to 30 below, their population expanded, and then of course forestry products and plant business and people and all their opportunities, they made their way south into to the United States, and then they're all over the place. Sort of like the pine bark beetle that causes the red wave in Montana and Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho. This is something on the East Coast, the woolly adelgid. Learn about it. If you have hemlocks at home, they're actually fairly easy to treat. Go to the Cooperative Extension. You can use a combination of like horticultural oils, which are just refined mineral oils, so they're not heavy-duty pesticides. You can use systemic insecticides, will also work for them. The one thing you want to avoid is you don't want to fertilize them. So you're like, oh, my tree looks weak, and you start fertilizing. The more nitrogen you pump into these, the more prolific the adelgid gets. They really like the nutritional value of the hemlock needle and the chlorophyll that they're stealing from them. So that's today's ponderance of plants on the hemlocks.